synonymous with ultralight aviation?
I think it's because back in the when we went from the hang gliding days to the power days, that Lyle Byram got involved in the company, and he came from the general aviation world. He was one of Cessna's big distributors out in Midland, Texas, and so he took the quality that Cessna was using at the time and applied that to the same quality programs in the this type of aviation. You know, doing the quality assurance and quality control programs. And I think the buying public, they recognized that right off the bat, that the company was being staffed by an administration and by a group of engineers that were interested in putting together a quality product at a reasonable price and then offering it to the masses. And he followed up with that by developing a dealer network and using the same format that Cessna used in their Cessna flight centers. Using that same format, he developed the Quicksilver dealer program. And so now he had a bunch of people spreading the same philosophy. They spent quite a bit of money on advertising, you know, and did it right, getting the name out. Not only did they get the name out and get the product recognition out, they followed up with quality service, replacement parts, quality flight training areas throughout the United States, and they did an awful lot of advertising. You know, he threw the dice, made the gamble, did the advertising, went to all of the shows. He got involved in Hollywood. So the big push was name recognition, and I think he did real well at that. And you know, the proof is in the pudding, because here we are today, some 30 years later, and we have people that walk up to Todd and I and say, yeah, I bought one of these back in late 80s, and now that I'm grown up and I've sold my company, I'm ready to buy another one. You know? So it really lends itself well to the program that was originally laid out to what we have today. And I think that's why the name is so synonymous with what's going on today in this movement. Although it's a little for us, you know, being involved in the industry for a long time, what's happening today is we're kind of at a turning point one way or another. But Quicksilver has decided to dedicate itself to staying to the same thing that what their roots were in the very beginning, which is high quality, bolt together type aircraft that's easy to maintain, easy to repair, and intrinsically safe because of its low kinetic energy flight characteristics.
The airplanes, when they first came out, they were a leader in a lot of aspects. Like they were the first, for example, to come up with a manual that actually showed you step by step how to build the airplane over, you know, a week or 40 hours or whatever. And they've taken that same theme along to the rest. I mean, it's not just training; it's just the manuals. It's the whole thing with their aircraft.
Well, in the beginning, when the company decided that it was going to become a professional company, one of the elements of the company were that it was going to be a builder-friendly type of product. And so just like you have your swing sets and your barbecue pits come with all the illustrated assembly instructions on how to put it together, that's what they took off with. So a lot of time and energy was spent in technical illustrators. The engineering staff for the company, both of the head guys had one of them had graduated from the Pasadena Art Center. So there was a big thrust into having well illustrated assembly manuals, step-by-step assembly manuals that were easy to follow and easy to understand. And that helped out a lot because it took away the can I do this? Am I capable of putting this airplane together? And along with the very detailed assembly manual, they had very detailed flight manuals on how to own the aircraft and how to maintain the aircraft and what you needed to do every 10 hours and every 20 hours and every 50 hours and every 100 hours and once a year, every 2 years, all the way up to the product's lifespan. And so along with the hardware that was developed with the product, it was followed up by the documentation, you know, the reams of documentation that the customers got when they purchased the aircraft. Not only did they purchase the aircraft, but they purchased the product support that was followed up by the factory. And that was back in the day, you know, this was in the late 70s, early 80s. That was just unprecedented in this type of aviation, because for the longest time we were thought to just be a passing fad that just never passed.
The other thing that they introduced was mass production. We had never seen the type of scale that they introduced when they came up with these aircraft.
Right. Lyle and his crew, he put together a very detailed crew, and they applied more so of how the Japanese were doing. They were assembling the motorcycles, where they implemented a lot of computer-controlled equipment. All of the punch presses and the mills and the computer-operated lathes and the computer-cut fabric tables. The fabric, the product is a stabilized Dacron fabric, and they utilized what was going on in the sailboat world. They're having all the computer-cut stuff and all the markings in the metal part of it. A lot of it was brought over from the motorcycle manufacturing technology, and a lot of it was developed by Quicksilver. They developed the tools that were used to drill the tubing and to form the tubing, and a lot of that technology is used by other manufacturers. A lot of the hang gliders that are being produced today are still using that technology that was developed by that group of people back in the early 80s, and that made quality control and quality assurance an easier thing to do, because it was all being produced by a computer that did repetitious work every time, and it really played out. That was a big part of it. Me, as being a dealer, we didn't have to worry much about the QC and QA, because it was done, and each of the product was signed off by inspectors, and it really took a load off of myself being out in the sales world of it, knowing that that I could stand behind the product because the product would stand behind me.
And all of the materials used in the aircraft were aircraft materials. It wasn't hardware store materials as a lot of other manufacturers used up to that time.
Right. That was a really innovative thing. What they did is it was actually engineered. It was engineered through process analysis, where the structure was designed. And then they did a finite analysis on all of the different components, on how the components were being used in the end result, where were the failure points, and how do we get around the failure points. So instead of just making the product big, bulky, and heavy from not knowing, that's the one aspect that was going on back in the day was, well, we'll just use a lot of tubing and a lot of bolts, and therefore it should be strong. Whereas the approach that they took, each and every component was engineered, it was computer designed, it was computer tested through the FEA programs that they had, and then the computational fluid dynamic systems that they ran them through, where all of the testing was done on computer first, and then what they did is they verified the computer testing by actual testing, and when you do that, you can bring every part down to its smallest, lightest part by using high-tech available materials that were available at the time. We've got the aluminum construction is basically 3 different types of aluminum. You had the 6061 T6, which is a seamless drawn tubing. At the time, that was very expensive and very difficult to get, and it had to be custom made and custom ordered. But Quicksilver made the commitment to do that, so all of their tubing was a seamless drawn method. And then, so we had the 6061, we had the 2024, and then on all of the stamp pieces, the flat parts they called them, was a 7075, which was a normalized aluminum. It was formed, and then it was heat treated up to the stress level that it needed to be, typically a T3. And then on all of the steel components that were done, Virtually all the components are a 4130 steel, which is a 125,000 psi steel, which is a common alloy in the aerospace industry, and that's what it was modeled after, aerospace. And so we took, there's a lot of things happen at once. The combination of production, the combination of customer support with the manuals, and then using available alloys that were not always the cheapest way to go, but it was the lightest, and had a lot of redundancy built into it.
How did Quicksilver then get to be a worldwide phenomenon rather than just a U.S. or a state phenomenon?
I think a lot of that was done through the early days because it was new, just like the microwave oven took off. It was a new and exciting thing. It was an easier way to cook food, a real uncomplicated way to cook food with the microwave. When this was introduced, it was an airplane that was available to everyday man. No matter what, if you had the desire to own an airplane, with the price that was coming out, the advertised pricing at the time was under $3,000 back then. That it was a way that anybody who wanted to fly could fly. You didn't have to go through the complexities of a pilot's license, or you had to fit in with the airport crowd. If you own some property, you could build the airplane, get an instructor, which is a little difficult to get back in the beginning, but you could get an instructor and learn how to fly the thing very, very safely. And so once that started getting out, that everyday man who wanted to fly, let's face it, a lot of people look at the sky and look at the birds and say, geez, I wish I could do that. And then once it was made available to them, it could be done. We did a lot of work with Popular Mechanics. We did a lot of work with Popular Science. We advertised in a lot of the worldwide magazines. That was some of the stuff that the beginning, the people that started the company, that was one of the things that they did, is they looked at the world as a sales place, not just the United States. We had the manuals. The manuals were in different languages at one time. So it was just a big effort. But the biggest thing, if we were to surmise it in a few words, it was that if you wanted to fly, you could fly.
So we're talking in the early days, in the 80s. We went through the 90s. We're 2009, 2010. Why is Quicksilver still basically at the forefront?
Well, we have the name recognition is still there. If you've got a product that has been around for a long time and has basically a very safe record, when people that the prices have climbed and stuff have climbed, we have more rules, regulations, and laws and compliances. When people are out looking for this type of aviation, open cockpit, simple to own, low cost to own aircraft, they start looking around and they see the lightweight structure of the plane, the fact that the name has been there for so long and it has very little negative record, if you will. And when we see the guys that come up, just to give you a little story, we see the guys that come up, and the guys that know now, these are typically professional guys that have been in the real world. One of the things they look at it, they start looking at it, talking to their friends, and we hear, the type of words like quality, and I don't see too many NTSB reports on this thing. So a word that I shy away from is when people ask me how safe are they. I said, well, safety is the pilot. That's how it goes. As far as the aircraft is concerned, to date, we have no structural failure of any properly maintained aircraft. So we have a good safety record. How safe is flying? That's a whole nother, subject for a whole nother day. But so when they look at that, they go, geez, you know what? When I was a kid, I heard of that name, and here they are. They're still here. When we had a friend years ago had one of these, and he still has it. So when they look at it, it's a name that they're comfortable with. It's not something new. It's not a new whiz-bang 2000 that's just been out for 2 years. When somebody looks at our product, they know that it's been out there for a long time. the ability to get replacement parts, the ability to get service, the ability to find somebody that can help them with some technical issues. They know that there's a whole group, a whole support structure out there that they can still get parts for. There's some aircraft out here people ask us about. They said, what do you think about that airplane? I said, the product is good, but the company is not around anymore. Said, where are you going to get your parts from? Who are you going to call for service? How do you know how do you know what's going on with the product? So you don't, so you don't really know what's going on with that. The fact that today, a customer walks up here today and says, I've been looking at this product for the last 10 years. I think I'm ready to get one. We have them now. They're available today. We got the boxes. We can ship them out tomorrow if you want. Quicksilver's strong. We're still here. We're not going anywhere anytime soon. So I think that's the big part of it. We've been on message from day one. We're here, we're quality, we have the engineering behind us, we're very good, we have a great relationship with the FAA, we have a great relationship with the guys that make the rules and regulations, and oftentimes Todd is with the FAA constantly because they look at Quicksilver, because we have a track record that's been running for so long of being the exact same thing. They say, hey, what are y'all finding? What are y'all finding about this? Or what's your ideas on that? Or what do you think about this? And the reason why they're asking Quicksilver that is because we've been around for a long time. And the product, frankly, hasn't changed. It's almost the same. It's almost the same product back in the 80s as it is today, except it's advanced a little bit. Your customers dictate what you do. And as long as this type of product is still selling, as long as we have the reputation that we have, I don't see it changing very much. So I think it's the fact that it's been around for a long time, and people are comfortable with an old name. It's kind of like an old shoe. They're comfortable with that, but still knowing that the engineering is still on top, product support is still available, replacement parts are still available, and quite frankly, if I'm not mistaken, I think we're still one of the lowest priced products on the market because we've been around for so long. This isn't a new thing. We're not experimenting, we're not testing, we're not doing any of that. We're just offering the same thing, the same product, the same comfort level today that it has been 20 years ago.
You say that, but in actual fact, you offer so many different things. This airplane can be flown in Canada on skis. It can be flown in Florida on floats. It can be flown in Alabama on wheels if you want. I mean, you really have the whole market covered, but with one style of aircraft.
That's a good point, Dave. It's the aircraft. The way that I look at it is the basic aircraft is the nucleus from that. Now from there, we've done Department of Defense work. We've done a lot of work with the Coast Guard, with the water applications. The guys that live in the snow, they're easily adaptable to the skis. I don't know much about snow. I'm from the south, so we don't have much to do with the snow. But we're involved in a lot of new technology stuff. There's several of our government agencies that are looking for a low-cost aerial platform to test some technologies on, that are trying to, we're starting to do a lot of stuff in the air, the Predator, the Delta Hawk. We're starting to do a lot of stuff in the air. So this offers a very simple, low-cost, readily available platform to try some of this new technology. Some of the things that come to mind right now is we have NASA is doing some work with some ground penetrating radar that they're working with. We have the forestry, the whole forestry program right now with all the different fires that are going on. This is just a simple aerial platform to see what's going on as far as fire stuff. Now they got some activity on the border right now. There's a big push for this type of stuff. We can put, the price of these airplanes right now is right at $20,000. We can put a lot of these aerial platforms in the air to do reconnaissance type of work at such a low cost. If the thing, it's a disposable type of thing. We do aerial spraying applications. Down where I'm from, we do a lot of work out in the swamps for pipeline patrol. We do a lot of work for property line patrol. We do a lot of work with the wetlands, the amount of wetlands that are being lost. That's being tracked. We have one. There's an airport that uses these to keep the birds away, which has recently become a real popular thing. So the platform itself is kind of like the hull of a boat. You have this one central nucleus component, and then from that you can add all of these, all of these other things. I personally have been involved with a couple of aerospace companies in flying around different equipment that they're trying to, that we did some drop tests on. We did some aerial tests that we, radio control work, that we fly it up and cut it loose. Years going by, this was all done by an expensive piece of equipment. It was it was being done with a helicopter or with a military type of aircraft. So for just a couple of $100 an hour, all of the aerial testing can be done. We do a lot of flight training in these type of things. We have the guys doing flight training on the skis. We have the guys doing flight training on the floats. You can get your float plane license in these airplanes now. So at very, very low cost to the individual. So yeah, it's a good point. We do have the nucleus of it, but it's endless of all of the ancillary type of activity that can take place with the product. Yeah, we have the single place aircraft. We have the two-place aircraft. We have the models that fold up real easy. We have the models that it just goes on and on and on of all the stuff we have available to us.
But this is all American still. This isn't, you're not bringing something in from Europe or a composite. This is all American and basically family owned.
Yeah, right now the company, the company is owned by a very innovative group of people that are engineers that are on their cutting. They're literally on the cutting edge of computer-aided manufacturing. They've got an exhaustive testing facility that the engineers are constantly testing that what it is that we built. There's two types of testing that goes on. You have your first part of testing is your initial testing. That okay, this component is going to hold this load for this amount of time, and then you have your longevity testing. What we'll do is we'll pull a part off, and a part may have 800 hours on it. Now let's test it again. What changed in those 800 hours from the day that it was originally manufactured to the 800 hours now that this part has been under a load? That doesn't end. So having a family that owns the company now, that family has been living that world, that engineering lifestyle. Their father was engineeringly oriented. His sons, who are now major components of the company, they're engineering type of people. So their mind is always thinking about that. It's not on how can we make more money, although that's a part of it. You got to stay open, but it's how can we. Their thinking is how do we make the product better? How do we make the product safer? How do we help the guys that are out there in the field? Give them the support that they need. So we're very frankly, we're blessed in that aspect to have the owners of the company be that kind of hands-on to see that the product maintains its structural integrity. That what myself as the guy in the field, I know that they're behind me making sure that what my mouth says they're able to back up with action, which is rare.
So if somebody wanted to get more information on the Quicksilver product and services, where do they go?
Well, Quicksilver is one of the few companies that has a very active dealer program, and all of the information on the product, the sales information, is all on their website, and they have a very good website. I think it's quicksilveraircraft.com, and it's quite quicksilveraircraft.com is their web address, and from there, all of the other information, their dealers, their the different product support activity, all of the phone numbers, all it's kind of concise to that, and then from there, somebody's interested, they can go to that website, the quicksilveraircraft.com, and then from there they can click on the dealer's link, and it opens up not the United States, it opens up the world, and from there they can click on where they're from, and it shows the dealers. We've got several different programs. We have our dealer program, which are the full-blown guys like myself that offer the training, the support, the assembly, the technical information. And then we have a group of training centers that are scattered about. And these guys offer training in the aircraft, so they can come out, they can fly the airplanes, they can see what's going on, they can get good flight instruction, and then from there they can decide whether or not they want to pursue it or not. So we have a pretty good group of training centers that are out there, which are a big help to us, because these guys, this isn't their business. Selling the aircraft, so to speak, is not their business, but they do the flight instruction. And just like in scuba and tennis and golf and everything else, it all starts from good quality instruction. You get good quality instruction, we know that most people are going to tend to stay with the product that what they learn to fly in. So that's why we back those guys as well. And that's where it's at. They go to the www.quicksilveraircraft.com. It's all there from there.
Thank you very much.
That's it? I can go?
You can go. Thank you.